It's gonna be a long one today, too.
Yeah, I know. All right. Where's Bruce at? Is Bruce coming?
He's over there. He's stuck by you.
Oh. Oh, okay.
One bark no, two barks yes.
He doesn't bark. That's the funny part. That dog does not bark. Except at squirrels.
There's our distinguished city clerk.
He was so surprised.
Okay, yeah, I know that.
Two? Are you gonna give us two? 16 instead of 18.
Gosh, the word right the paper.
Are we ready? Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wrong way.
Don't be tricking us.
Oh, okay. Bruce, roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrett. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Bisbal. Here. Councilmember Ellis.
Here.
Councilmember Gazelle. Here. Mayor Kajerski.
Here.
Councilmember Cusick. Here. Councilmember Seeley.
Present. On page 4 to 7 are the minutes from the April 17th regular meeting. If everything is in order, I need a motion to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On page 8 to 15 are different committee and commission minutes that we're accepting in the public domain. I need a motion to accept.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Kathleen, where is Kathleen? Please come on up. We're so pleased
And sad at the same time.
and sad.
We are.
Yeah, but look at this, you have a place to go in Virginia now. Oh, there you go.
Leave your address on the way out.
I will have it.
Okay, good.
We have guest rooms.
Okay.
Kathleen, proclamation is in there on it. This is all the resident of the village of Grosse Pointe Shores since 2008. And has served her community above and beyond the call of duty on numerous occasions. Whereas Mrs. Mullins, having served as president and CEO of the historic Epsilon Alamo Courthouse, Grosse Pointe Shores, and the Henry Ford Estate in Dearborn, since 2008, continues to exemplify the meaning of loyalty to one's community and making a positive impact in their opinion. And whereas during Mrs. Mullins' tenure, the Ford House has launched new visitor experiences and has brought new events such as the DSO, we all love, to the historic property, as well as further her vision through detailed historic restoration efforts and enhanced programming. The efforts of Mrs. Mullins are an illustration of her dedication to one's community, and together she personifies the meaning of being a person for others. Whereas Mrs. Mullins has an extensive career history, professional affiliations, and offers many selected programs, lectures, publications, and articles, as well as a recipient of numerous honors and awards, will truly be missed as part of the community as she retires to Virginia to start this next phase of her life. And therefore, myself, Mayor, and the council, and all our residents feel a sense of pride in your accomplishments and award you this proclamation. Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. We're gonna-
Thank you.
I'm going to miss all of you. Can I say something?
Sure, sure.
Absolutely.
Jim and I have commented,
Have your husband come on up here.
this is my husband, he's never in town. First of all, he's living in the same house after 10 years.
Retired now.
But we have been career nomads, and we have worked all over this country, and we both have said, as we have been packing our house on Colonial, this is the hardest community to leave that we have had. I love all of you. We have done great things together in Grosse Pointe Shores and in Grosse Pointe in general, and I'm very serious. Look me up. Mark will know how to find me, and if you find yourself in Williamsburg, Virginia, I'll treat you to great oysters. And, yes, and a Boilermaker.
Say that I've been addicted to three things: reading, I'm a librarian, chocolate chip cookies, and caffeine.
Yay! thank you for everything that you've done. The
And I
Ford
hope
House
you'll
is
join us
lovely.
on May 23rd. May 23rd at the Country Club of Detroit, the board is hosting a farewell. Come and eat their food and drink on their tab.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
5 to 7, okay. Mark, you'll have, will you send us information on that? Okay.
Well, the next item, Chief, we have a swearing in. I see you have our newest addition to the police force.
Fran would like to say a few words before I.
And I think the dog does too. You got his Kevlar vest on.
Since the beginning of the year, we've had a goose mitigation program, which includes dog decoys, scent deterrence, light deterrence, and canine patrols. We have been very successful in comparison to past years in reducing the amount of greasy goose poop in our park. Goose feces is a major source of E. coli contamination in our waterways. All of this has been done in compliance with the DEQ, DNR, and international migratory bird rules and regulations in a very humane way. Trace does not bark at the geese. Unfortunately, he barked at you guys. Or touch them. He simply shoos them away. I would also like to say that allowing dogs on or off leash in the park during the off season has definitely been helpful in this endeavor. So I hope this policy can continue. In order to continue to have the program be successful, I want to remind all of our park users, shh, Trace, sit. Sorry. Sit down. I would like to remind all of the park users not to feed the geese at all, especially bread-like products. Hush, come here. Because they actually cause the birds to develop wings that they cannot fly with. It's literally cruel to feed them species. Can you hold this one? Maybe give them one. Part of it. It's literally cruel to feed them species-inappropriate food. We have approximately 6 weeks left to keep them out and or remove them from the park because they begin molting, and once that happens, they cannot fly for 6 to 8 weeks after that. We have been successful in making sure no goslings have hatched within our park. All of the park users and personnel that I have spoken with are grateful that they can use the park without having to make sure they are not stepping in goose poop. Like all members of our public safety department, Trace is honored to serve the community and takes great pleasure and pride in his goose chasing job.
Well, I have to say that's far more technical than I was going to get into. I just wanted to make a comment here that we may have just hired the best officer possible. Let me explain. Trace never reports late for work. He never calls in sick. He doesn't require health insurance or a pension. He eats once a day. He doesn't need a uniform allowance. His contract negotiations and payroll adjustments consist of animal treats. And all kidding aside, we're very grateful because he is on a tear at the park, and he's a great dog. We'd like to present. This is his renewable park pass. This, you can hang it from his collar. It says Grosse Pointe Shores K9.
Oh,
Number 3.
look.
Okay, show it off, Trace.
Okay.
Yay.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thanks, Bruce.
That's great.
The next item, I'd like to switch item number 9 for 8. It's the public hearing on the special land use request at 627 Lakeshore. I need a motion to enter into public hearing.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mary, you're ahead of me. Good, thank you.
The item the address rather is 627 Lake Shore, special land use requested by the Baloo family, and for the solar panels, to install the solar panels. Mr. Haggerty was the spokesman on behalf of the party, and I'm just wondering if he is here to answer questions. I thought I recognized him. Our planner had suggested that we do have regulations, and the 8 items that that were answered at the meeting have been answered, and I will let Mr. Haggerty go further into it. Anyway, there were some objections by some of the neighbors. They had concerns about the panels, that it would reflect to their homes. However, the panels are dark panels, and they're the newer version, and they do not reflect. They actually bring the heat in and the light in. And as I said, Mr. Haggerty is here to answer any questions, technicalities, and all that about the these excuse me, solar panels. I have a frog in my throat again. The motion was made, and it was unanimous to permit this. And now I would like to call on Mr. Haggerty if you have questions as far as the technicalities of the solar panels.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Haggerty.
And thank you for having me, so I can answer whatever questions you may have.
Well, the one issue that came up, I attended the public hearing, or the planning commission hearing, and the one issue had to do with the reflection. And the night before, I Googled the new solar panels to see what information I could learn. Apparently, the earlier generation used aluminum, and so they were light, and there was a fair amount of reflection, which means that they're not as effective, right? If there's reflection, that means that they're not working.
Absolutely. Any reflected light is wasted power. So one of the largest technological innovations the last several years has been the ability to glean every bit of power potential from the sunlight that passes through it. And reflection just does not go along with that narrative.
And the concern was, I guess it was going to be on the garage, is that correct? On the,
sir.
that would be the southern side of the garage, and it would be possibly visible to the neighbor behind who did appear. So, but I guess everyone was satisfied that reflection is no longer an issue. I guess that was the big,
It's not an issue.
concern that I heard.
Exactly.
Is there any public comment? Would somebody like to, yes, Chuck?
I'm Chuck Ryfrock, 69 Weber, and I'm not in support of solar panels throughout the community. This is really a bad idea. It's a loss of money for the person who's purchasing it. The appearance issues come up, and the safety issues come up. To the previous meeting, I brought a article in from our newspaper in Lansing that follows Michigan government, and it was a together reading of facts by Detroit or DTE Energy with regard to solar panels and windmills. And, you know, you can see from their compilation that they shared with the Michigan State Public Service Commission that's on file with them, that in this regional area, there's really very little benefit to having solar panels. DTE says that the benefit from either having a windmill or a windmill farm up in the thumb only benefits them to 33% of the electric capacity we need daily. And when you look at solar panels, because of our weather and day and night and cloudy and rain and so forth, you only get a 13% benefit. So I don't see the point of doing this and changing things over in this community from more of a residential look to a industrial type of zone where we look like a factory or something with something on the roof like that. I've got questions that maybe the experts here representing our city can answer, but with solar panels, they are a shield actually to fighting a fire. And the one way of solving a fire in general is to vent through the roof to let the flame and the smoke and the pressure of the fire out. But you're enclosing it and trapping it, and you can't get to it. And I wonder if our city ordinances or building code is up to date on what has had to be updated around the country, that we're requiring setbacks and pathways for fire workers to be able to get in and to stop a fire in a roof. I don't know what our current city code is telling us we can do and not do.
We are in, I mean, we have all the qualifications, we have read them, and it is within the ordinance.
Are we
For
up
the
to date on
solar.
those two subjects, though?
Well, I believe we are.
That's what every new city around has been adapting.
Well, one of the new things is the reflection, that it's the darker one, it brings in the light instead of reflecting it back out. One of them has been changed. And as far as I know, we're up to date, and the chief can correct me if there's anything different.
The 2015 version of the Michigan Residential Code adopted this pursuant to the California Federation of Firefighters that have had to deal with this for many years. And residential structures need a 3-foot setback from the peak, and they need a firefighter's egress to the roof. Single-story, non-attached structures are exempt from that. If it was on a residential roof, it would have been designed to meet those requirements. As far as the return on investment goes, asking DTE what their only competitor's value is not something I would really trust. Our customers get an average of a 12% return on investment annually from their investment.
Okay.
I was talking about usage. No, So we're thinking that the requirement for pathways and setbacks are being met. And my other question is, with the fire department, since the way of solving a fire is being able to ventilate it and put it out from the outside, has all of Grosse Points, they had training with regard to dealing with solar panels and education, both the actual training process?
We have had one training session from a manufacturer, a solar panel manufacturer, and I've been in communication with our city electrician as well as the building inspector. We're not in danger from the
Okay, does that mean the whole force and all the points have been trained for this?
I can't speak for the other points.
What about for ours, is 100% knowledgeable?
Well, we're not electricians.
No, but the main thing is to know how to first turn off the power to the panels from somewhere remote on the ground level.
Well, depending on,
And then the other thing is not to put a ladder up there because you can get electrocuted, and be able to have access to vent a fire.
I can only imagine that if the manufacturer were to show us the shut-offs, et cetera, we would have that information.
But do the officers know that's a procedure they should already know?
Well, depending, the one existing structure in Rockaway Shores that I believe has a solar panel roof, that's the manufacturer who spoke to us, yes.
Okay, so I'm just trying to keep you up to date to standards now, what you need to be trained and educated to
Well,
handle.
Absolutely, there's a training issue, we need to, we would need to speak with someone in regards to the safety of each individual unit.
Okay, in general, is 100% of your officers educated and trained for this type of process? Okay. So there's just some cautions here that we have to be aware of.
Mark, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I was just going to add that we are subject to the state construction code, including the residential code that was mentioned earlier. We do not have the ability to deviate from those. The state mandates those for us. So as they're updated statewide with national codes, those are adopted by the state and mandated for us to use those. So the inspectors have been trained with respect to this as well. The officers have had one set of training. There have been concerns by Gary Mitchell, of course, a member of the Planning Commission, and has raised certain issues in terms of the cutoffs. You'll see in the write-up from the city's planning consultant that it is necessary, and the homeowner has agreed to maintain the pathways to the shutoffs and keep them free of plantings, et cetera, as a condition of potential condition of approval.
So we would have to keep track of the houses that do have these panels so that
Well,
in
they
the
have to
event.
comply with the state codes. We no longer have the option, as we did a number of years ago, to adopt our own modifications to those codes. We must, it's one code for all of the state, and if we choose not to enforce that locally, the state will enforce it for us, which is something we don't want to do. Can't imagine how long it would take a state contractor to come down here to do any inspection and stuff, so.
So in other words, our discretion could be overturned,
That is
possibly.
within, we must follow the state code, and they have been updated, and they are updated every couple of years, based on national codes and stuff, so.
Okay.
Mayor, I believe that
Yeah.
Mr. Haggerty probably could add to this too, in the shut off. They are instructed where to shut off, where, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely, and I believe it was me that was out here several years ago when the city was promulgating the rules for solar, because there are certain ways to adopt it that are inherently not as safe as others. And one thing that was adopted was that the panels all need a panel level optimization. What does that mean? It means that when you kill the power to the building, you lose all power from the solar array except for the value of one panel. Before that, you could have 600 volts DC, and like the gentleman mentioned, you could have a substantial issue with firefighters on the roof, with water, with axes, with a false sense of security, thinking the power's cut to the building, but in actuality, the voltage goes up in the array when you turn the power off, just like a hose. When you let off the hose, you feel the pressure build up. Same type of principle. But the city adopted that, I believe, years ago, the per panel optimization. The state adopted under the National Electric Code what's called rapid shutdown, meaning that it doesn't matter whether you have the local ordinance or not. The state now states that when the power's cut to the building, within 10 seconds, the voltage from the array has to drop to 30 volts, or it's out of the parameters of code. So the more mature markets like California and New Jersey, surprisingly, and a few of the others, they've gone through this. They've gone through the gambit and put forth best practices in the codes that we now are all adopting.
Okay. Any more public comment? Yes, please come up. Okay.
Hi, Sam Rasaka from 56 Weber Place. I was here last time. I'm the one who was lives right behind the house that's putting the solar panels. So my concern, again, going back to the subject of reflection. Again, I understand that things have changed technologically and have gotten better, which I'm glad to hear. And but in the event, once it's installed, now that I went home and I looked at the bushes. We have bushes on my side that protects. But let's say something do happen, I decide to take the bushes down. I think it's the owner's responsibility in the future, or any future owner of that house that's going to purchase it, if they decide to sell it, to put large enough bushes, especially if there's reflection of any kind that's uncomfortable to us. I think it's respectful, in my opinion, that just should be considered, and if you decide to move forward with this project.
Okay. Well,
Does
I
that sound
appreciate-
fair? I mean, that's
Yeah,
all.
no, I appreciate those comments. I think we would still have continuing jurisdiction over this in the event the reflection does arise, even though it's not supposed to. We could declare it a public nuisance, I would imagine. They could manage it from that standpoint. If it affects your enjoyment of the property, which, you know, but, I think that's one thing that we were talking about.
How would you maintain jurisdiction going forward, once it's installed?
Well, again, we're relying on the industry standards or the company standards about the reflection.
Right, but he's saying if for some reason, over time, the reflectivity goes away because of age or whatever, or there's a catastrophic ice storm and all the shrubs go away, and he's faced with this from the present circumstance, how do we protect him? He wants to be protected
Yeah, and how
5 years from now.
And I don't have any. I've never seen it. We're just going by word of mouth that there's no reflection. I haven't seen one, so I don't know what about 1 week after he puts it on and there's a reflection I'm not comfortable with. I got 3 kids, a newborn, and our whole back, our family room and kitchen faces that house. So we spend 90% of our time there. And I think if the bushes die, decide not to keep them, I think they have to do something.
And currently, you look at the garage, is that what you see out there?
Yeah. I'm facing them, facing the garage.
So you see the roof of their
I see part of it, yeah.
garage roof.
But we have bushes long enough, you can see in between them, but it's, but I know it sounds like the technology has changed, the reflection is minimal, but again, I don't know, I haven't seen it in reality, and I've never been faced with this, so I just want to make sure what's my rights, what can happen, I just make sure, I have a letter here, if you can put in the file, at least just so I can let you know that if there's any consideration in the future of something uncomfortable, what can be done about it.
Well, thank you for appearing, Doctor. I think that, I heard commentary at the Planning Commission that in the event the panels degrade or, or they're damaged by, some natural or unnatural force, and at that point, they lose their, or are giving off that reflection that you would be concerned about. I don't know, Brian, what would be the city's position on something like that? Hate to put you on this.
I think this is really no different. Let's say you have a generator, and the generator starts to go and it starts to make a lot of loud noise at all hours of the day. We have a nuisance ordinance, and I was just looking up when we started
Okay,
discussing this. We have a nuisance ordinance that this city can utilize to prevent the owner from running that generator until it's fixed.
okay,
I don't see this as much different. I'll look at the ordinance as we
Okay.
talk here, but I think that's the city's primary
defense,
course of action.
Yes, okay. Okay, Doctor, yeah, that was, I think, what I heard at the Planning Commission, that we would, and again, we're relying also on the industry, we're relying on the product. I Googled, reflectivity of solar panels, and of course, on the internet, you can find out everything about anything. And it basically said the new generation of panels does not reflect, consistent with what the gentleman or expert behind you said. That means that they're not functioning properly.
So my understanding, but if they do, if there's any discomfort, something can be done about it.
Well, I think we would accept the letter in the file, and I think that at that point, we would investigate. Particularly, we're looking down the road.
Yeah.
If in the event of a degradation of the panel, or,
Or even without degradation, what if the actual panels don't, deliver what we expect in terms of reflectivity?
Same thing.
Same thing, okay.
Can I ask, sir,
Yeah.
how much of that roof are you seeing at this time?
I don't really measure, I'll be honest with you.
Well, so you're going to see these panels on a daily basis?
There's the top part of it, some portion of it between the trees, the bushes we have.
And what do these panels look like? Are they black? They're black, so they'll blend in with the roof, supposedly?
Mr. Haggerty, would you like to comment?
Panels are what they call black on black, meaning that the actual cells themselves are monocrystalline, or a black consistent color, not like the blue hazy crystalline that we've
Okay.
seen before. And the frame is black, like the mayor mentioned, where they used to be silver, but they're black now also, so it's black on black.
Okay, all right. So that look is acceptable to you at this point? To
Yeah.
see that, at this point, okay, okay,
Just a reflection, I'm worried.
okay.
Okay. Well,
Larry, what's the expected life of these things? How long are these things supposed to last?
The life expectancy of the panels,
The
can you
life
tell us?
expectancy, the warranty is 25 years. The panel manufacturer's been making them in California since '75. They have panels that are over 40 years old that are still producing within factory specifications. There are no moving parts, so there's really nothing to go wrong. They decrease in efficiency by a little less than 0.5% a year, so after 25 years, about 10% loss in efficiency.
And the country of origin, is it China?
No, United
Was
States.
it? Oh,
There's not that many panels in there, really. Can you sell excess capacity back to DT or whoever nowadays?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, I guess I need to further define that. On a daily basis, we can sell back at retail to the utility company, but at the end of the year, if we have a net surplus of credits, they don't give us a check, they just carry over. So at my home, I offset a lot of my winter heating load with those excess credits by dialing back on the natural gas. At our office, we didn't have to refill the propane tank last year by heating with the electricity.
Okay.
Okay.
I also have another question, is going forward with this, is this going to be a case-by-case basis that we are approving this? This is not going to be an ordinance, we're not putting this on the books that everybody can just go
We
and
have
do
an
this?
ordinance already that we've read. And that's what the process is. This is not,
This is a special land use hearing first before the planning commission on each individual basis, and then it comes to council for you to approve.
Okay.
That's how it was set up.
Okay.
Our ordinance provides that process so that there is an individual review, and it was really done because of the one that's most familiar to everybody back here.
Okay, so anybody that wants to do this in the future must come for a special
Yeah.
land use, and this will be done case by case?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Is there any other public comment? If not, any council comment, any more council
I just
comment?
want to add something here that our planner suggests that the petitioner would give us additional information on the height of the garage. And of course, he answered about the reflection of that already. So can you tell us the height of the garage? Was it,
It was, the additional information that was requested at the planning commission was provided.
for the council?
Yeah, and I forgot what it is. It's 15.6 or something like, it's below our threshold amount. And there were a couple of other specifics of where they overlapped and things like that. Do they extend over the edge of the garage? And they don't. The other, I think the other couple of items that were mentioned were, he has filed copies with the building department of his request to, you have to enter into the agreement with DTE to be funded, as it was indicated on, a particular sunny day and they're selling power back. He did provide us that information, and the homeowner also acknowledged that we do not, under our ordinance or the city, provide that he's guaranteed solar access. So if for some reason a house went up next door that was higher and it blocked his view, he understands that's, if it met all of other criteria, which it really wouldn't, that he understands we're not protecting his solar view. So that information was also provided.
All the criteria has been met, and the planning commission voted unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
At this point, we need we need to vote, and then I invite a motion to affirm the actions of the planning commission.
So move.
Second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Doctor, we'll accept that letter in the file, and we will keep it in, on record. So. All right, the next item, we took it out of order, Bruce, I'm sorry. Item number 8 is the fiscal year 2018-19 budget, the tax rate, the water rate. So again, I need a motion to go into public hearing.
So move.
Support, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Bruce, would you like to discuss the budget first?
Really?
Rhonda?
I'll defer, right? Well, it's that time of year again, right? We're, this year's budget, I think everyone has it in their handout. We have a pretty good summary, if you will, that kind of crystallizes all the activities. And last council meeting, I kind of went through the high points, and I can go run through them again. Key point, tax rate is gonna drop 1 mil because the park renovation process, we've collected the amount of money that we feel is necessary, and also that the taxpayers are about willing to take care, to accept. So, we'll work within the existing confines of what we have right there. On an operational side for the village, excluding the park activities, it's basically the same as we've done in prior years. We've baked in a payroll increase for the union employees and the management staff. We're gonna be ratifying a labor contract later tonight at 2.5%, so we factored that in. We've factored in medical insurance increases, labor, fuel cost increases, electrical increases, and as well as our major capital expenditure projects, public safety equipment, public safety vehicle, public safety breathing apparatus, water and sewer department van, pickup truck, all those kind of things. We're not buying any lawnmowers or trash compactors or dump trucks this year. We're good on all those. If you look at our rolling stock fleet over the last 3 years especially, we've done a tremendous amount of replacement. A Packer truck, the dump truck last year, trash carts that we got the grant for, a regular replacement of all public safety vehicles on a routine basis. We're not driving anything out there that's got 140,000 miles on it. The vehicles are turned over regularly. We aren't having any issues there. Public safety, DPW vehicles, we've been able to save a lot of money by taking old trucks and making them new again with old bodies from the junkyard and stuff. We're kind of running out of tricks in our bag, so we're going to try to buy some newer equipment along those lines. That's what we're doing on that side. Other activities, road construction this year will be Belle Meade is getting a redo down, complete asphalt redo. And I think Blairmore is the other street that we're going to do for about $40,000. So we have another $250,000 that we're spending on road improvements. We're moving money out of the major street fund and in the local street fund to do that. But again, we have over the last 3 years at least spent $250,000 per year on road improvements without a special millage, without taking away from our fund balance, without doing any of those other things. Rhonda made a really astute observation. If we had the same assessed value that we had in 2008 before the meltdown, we would have $1.2 million more in our general fund budget each year.
Wow.
$1.2 million. Imagine that. So we've been able to, if you will, learn how to live on the lean side of these numbers for the last 6 years, in terms of those increases. Fund balance will probably decrease in the coming year simply because of the money coming out for the park renovation. And if there's a shortfall of whatever degree there may be, some portion of that may come out of the general fund balance. But again, we'll be over the 22 to 24% range, which is our target. It will not endanger our AAA credit rating in that area. The one other major thing that's going on is our water and sewer fund. We're going to raise water rates 5%. We have not received any confirmation from Great Lakes Water Authority about what the rate increase will be. It certainly will not be a decrease. They don't know what that, I don't think their machines go backwards. I think they only go plus. But, so we're anticipating a 5% increase. Last year was 4.7. If the actual increase is higher, then we'll make an adjustment. If it's lower, we'll certainly endeavor to reduce the amount of increase. It'll be effective July 1st, consistent with that. Our other major challenge simply with our sewer is that we're working through issues with Wayne County about the amount of flow that goes through our sewer. We're exceeding what they determined to be our flow rate, and we're going to find some innovative solution to make us, to get us in compliance and at the same time minimize any financial impact to our community in terms of doing that. At this point, I welcome any questions or comments from anyone on council about a particular item, line items, or anything else that I can answer for you, or from the community as well. You're welcome to come up and comment on anything within the budget.
Any public comment? Vito? No? We had a very good town hall Saturday, and Bruce was there and explained also a short form version of the next year's budget, the water rate, the tax rate. So, council, are there any questions?
I just have a comment. I'd just like to thank Bruce for all of his work. We're very, very lucky to have a guy as talented as our Mayor Pro Tem, and I just wanted to publicly recognize him and thank him for everything he does. Pulling a rabbit out of your hat year after year is something we probably, as a community, started to take for granted. There are a lot of talented people that pull this together, and I'm really, really happy to see the progress we've been able to make as far as the stability of the finances for our village. Thanks again, Bruce.
Well, thanks. The thing I want, this year's budget, I gotta tell you in all honesty, we had a meeting in February, the finance committee along with the staff, and we kind of laid out our parameters. We discussed, the chief, Brett, they always come with their wish list. Rhonda, they don't even get to me. Rhonda says, maybe, no, hell no. You no, you're not even asking me that.
Yep.
Mark's going, well, I'll talk to her afterwards and see what I can do. But anyhow, so we went through that process, and by the time we got our first draft of the budget, it was 98% there. They did a really remarkable job this year. I really was impressed with the quality of that. And we really work well as a group. We really and truly do, and I'm very pleased with that. It's a lot of fun to do it together. It really is. So we appreciate that.
Great work.
Well, thanks, Bruce. Any public comment or any council comment? And Bruce, I'd like to echo what Matt said, because when you started in 2011, you quarterbacked, the finance committee and started working with the department heads. The chief was involved, Brett was involved, Rhonda was involved, and you marshaled, all the resources and the talent and the ideas to come up with a plan, and a 3-year plan and a 5-year plan. And so, where would we be without the good work of the finance committee and your leadership? So we're very pleased. Well, if there's no other comments, I welcome a motion to approve the budget for 2018-2019.
So moved.
So I got a resolution in there someplace in the packet
Yeah.
that's got
Yep.
the magic language that we gotta use or whatever.
Let me see if I can find it here.
Then the yellow sheet, well,
17.
I don't think you're, come up in color. Okay. Yep, that's it.
We don't have that.
Because we have to approve the tax rate specifically.
Yeah, each of these will be a separate motion.
Okay.
Would somebody,
Should be the same thing. Yeah.
Did you get the one for the fiscal stuff?
It's in the recommendation.
yeah, I don't have it with me.
Recommendation, if you just read that one, that's, or we can just insert it in minutes, but it basically says to adopt the attached budget on a fund and activity basis.
Page 45.
Year.
So you get the budget. That's the tax rate. We have to
We
make a
got
motion
that.
to approve
I don't
that.
think we got a
We
budget.
didn't get that budget in our packet.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I'll find out why.
Yeah, fire that
I can read
person.
yours.
Take that money off the budget. We don't need that person.
We must be saving.
Yeah, but it's more detailed.
Okay, I move that we recommend the Finance Committee and staff adopt the attached budget on a fund and activity basis for the fiscal year 2018-2019, specifically the general fund at the functional level and all other funds at the expenditure level.
Is there support?
Support.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor adopting the budget, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. The next item is the tax rate.
You want to read this one?
Tax rate. It is recommendation of the Finance Council to establish the 2018 tax rate for the Village of Grosse Pointe Shores in Michigan City to be levied July 1st, 2018.
Is there any further discussion? It should be added, this is 1 mil less than last year,
Right.
in the prior year.
Total tax rate of 17.7031.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, who wants to read the water rate one?
You're up, Tina.
Yeah, you're up.
There you go.
It is the recommendation of the Finance Committee and staff to increase the water/sewer rate by 5% from $12.49 per 100 cubic feet of water usage to $13.12 effective July 1st, 2018. The quarter minimum billing would increase from $187.35 to $196.80.
Thank you, Tina. Is there support?
Second.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, good work, Bruce. Good work, Finance Committee. Thank you, Council. Rhonda?
Yeah, one thing I would want to point out, we have, in our packet, we have a comparison of our water rates, of what we pay here. Compared to the other communities, we're like the second lowest, right? Is it?
The second lowest on a minimum water bill, and then I just gave another example in there too with a higher usage too, but we're still in the middle there.
So what that tells us is the community that invested the most money in a storage facility is paying the highest rate, and the storage facility was designed to save money. But the guys changed the rules, and there's no longer peak water billing. It's not part of the rate calculation, so storing water at night so you don't use it and using it during the day, that strategy is not gonna save you any money.
George, you gotta close your ears. All right.
Especially over a 30-year period, you know. That's,
Was it 30 years?
well, when you finance a bond.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, Rhonda?
Good evening, everyone. In your packet, you have the list of the wire transfers for the month of May. There's really nothing unusual there, just normal business. Then attached, you have your check register from the checks issued since the last council meeting. On the first page, you'll notice a check to the City of Grosse Pointe Farms. That is our quarterly payment for the court personnel, our dispatch, and lockup agreement with them. There was also some sewer repairs on Roslyn that we paid $14,000 to Guardian Sewers. Most of the bills here are just general routine items. As the season's coming up quickly here on us, there was also a check to have the splash pad power washed and painted to General Painting Company. So you'll see a lot more pool and park related bills coming up. And then also, we've paid out $5,500 to IT Right to convert our website.
A couple of checks here to Otis Elevator, one for fire service testing and one for contract charges, almost $1,000 for just.
Well, we have, the Otis Elevator comes out every quarter for the maintenance.
State requirement, and of course, that's one of the ones the guy is now very timely, including the state inspector, because that was one of the phone bills we cut off by mistake because we didn't know where it went. So when the guy came and caught it, we had to get that redone. So he now visits us on a regular basis.
Okay.
But there was one line that went to an abandoned building in Detroit.
We saved a significant amount by cutting the service. We paid, I don't remember now, Rhonda, to you, was like $600 a month
Yeah, I don't know.
to a special Wayne County line to a building that they had abandoned 3 years before. And we actually got a rebate out of AT&T for 1 year for that.
Okay.
Rhonda, did you mention IT Right?
Yes. for the
Did you?
website.
Okay. Is that our new provider? Or
That's our technical experts, along with 2 or 3 others of the Grosse Pointes that use them. And actually, almost a couple hundred communities around the state use them. And this is something that came up several months ago. I think I mentioned that there are this is crazy, but there are handicap access rules with respect to websites that we are not in compliance with, nor were any of the other Grosse Pointes. I think it came up at the January managers meeting. So I worked out a deal with the farms and that use the same contractor to give us a price to bring this stuff up. And if you're blind, I'm not sure how you use the website, but we have to be in compliance. Like going to McDonald's and you see the Braille on the drive-through window. I don't know how you can drive if you're blind, but they have to put it on the window, so.
The air compressor repair, Chief, is that your business?
That's Brett.
Or is that, that's
That
Brett?
was DPW.
Okay.
We acquired
Okay.
air compressor from St. Clair Shores.
Oh, okay.
And rather than purchasing a new one, we decided to refurbish one that they weren't using
You rock. You rock.
Good work,
Well,
good
it
work,
just said
Brett.
fire apparatus,
What
so
did
I
you pay
wanted to
for
make
that?
sure you weren't buying a new fire and we're giving you the new apparatuses, so, okay.
No more rental?
They did an awesome job. It looks brand new.
Good work, Brett, good work.
Yeah, good job.
Well, I need a motion to approve this check run in the amount of $323,622.
So moved.
Is there support? Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Rhonda.
Then I just wanted to let you know, coming in June, I won't be a favorite employee again, because we will have water bills going out, but hopefully they're small yet. And then, of course, at the end of June, you shall be getting your summer tax bill. Once again, I'm not a favorite. And then, at the June council meeting, I'll be presenting the amended budget for the current fiscal year.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Has the auditor been on premises to do initial field work yet, or?
No, that'll be late June. They haven't set any dates yet. so
Okay.
I'm hoping they forget, but.
Good. Thanks, Rhonda. The chief? Oh, I'm sorry, Harry, would you like to?
Maybe it's me, I think you might have skipped over number 10.
Oh, public comment. Okay, I'm sorry. Is there,
I mean, I can wait if you want, but,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry. We had a couple of public hearings, so I,
it's kind of tough, tough to keep track. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council. I wanted to comment on agenda item 13B. Kind of caught my attention, but I think it says that there's an intention tonight to approve the gatehouse building project. Is that what that is?
yes.
Okay. I didn't know, because when we had the town meeting, which I want to thank you for, I think it's terrific when you have those, I was told it was a done deal. That was a categorical statement that was made at that meeting, that
Tonight-
gatehouse is a done deal.
The gatehouse was approved to be built. This is just us approving the design change.
Oh, this is just to approve the design change.
Right,
No, it's
just
the
the cost.
contract.
The building contract, Harry.
Building contract here.
Is it to approve the building contract, or like Mr. Seeley said, the council, or the design change? What?
Contract.
It's to approve a contract tonight. Okay.
We're gonna have authority to spend up to a certain amount of money.
I got you. Okay, so it's more than just approving a design change. Well, I'd like to respectfully suggest that you consider defer making an irreversible decision on this, and I'll tell you why. At this town hall meeting, which I thought was great, it really became apparent that there was a lot of questions about the project. And I wrote some of this down because there's quite a bit. The questions included days and hours of operation, the safety, the cost, both the immediate and the long-term cost. There was all sorts of questions that I didn't think got answered, and there was even what I'd call disagreements between members of the council. It was not like everybody's cool with this. There was misunderstandings, and you know, I know we had at least one council member, an important council member, who was against this. You're all important, but in this particular case, the council members on the park committee. I believe there may be other council members that have questions, and you know, I'm just hearkening back to that second picnic pavilion that we tried to build, and that just turned out to be just a debacle. I mean, it was a mess. Bad publicity, bad feelings, a lot of negative things came out of it unnecessarily. I think we resolved them, but we resolved them through communication and talking and just being as transparent as possible and addressing questions. And I think it would be very unfortunate if this gatehouse, a road, a new entrance, it's dramatic. It's gone from 80,000 to 280,000. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, what hours of operation. And I would just urge you to consider giving yourself at least a window. I know you've got another town hall meeting coming up in a couple of months, when you can distribute everything. You know, send it out to the community. This is a huge, huge change for the community. Send it out, make sure they understand how much is really being spent, how much is it going to cost to staff it, get everybody buying in, or at least feel like they know what's going on. And I think you might avoid having this big politically charged situation. I think that would be important. I mean, the last time the Improvement Foundation ended up getting blamed for the pavilion, it wasn't even their idea, and it was really nasty. I mean, I just think we can live without that. And I know you've got a donor for this. You know, it sounds like they're very generous. If this turns into a big controversy and people are arguing, and it'll just, you know, kind of deflate everything. So that's my comment, and I hope you take it into consideration.
Well, thank you, Harry. And I want to thank you for coming to the town hall, because I agree with you. I thought it was a very constructive town hall. You know, again, we're trying to reach people that maybe don't normally come to the council meetings. It's on a Saturday, and to hear what their concerns are. So, but remember, Harry, there were 195 people that signed a petition in rather like 4 or 5 days asking for the gatehouse to be.
Well, I think there was an aggressive effort to get that petition signed, and I don't disagree with you. Those people have this belief that there's some huge security problem we have over the park. And I think those same people would be interested to see what you said if they found out what the costs are, the fact that it's really not going to be open beyond what I understand from Memorial Day to Labor Day. There's going to be days when we're going to let people come in that we normally wouldn't be letting come in. There's a lot of confusion about it. So I don't disagree. You got a petition signed. People that weren't in favor of it didn't run around and try to get a petition signed. I'm just suggesting you really be transparent with this and really bombard the community with, I don't know what the design is. We're hearing about it was drawn on the back of a napkin. I'd like to see, something. I don't think it'll hurt us to do that. Just take those steps.
Okay.
And try to avoid that type of conflict.
Thank you, Harry. Is there any other public comment? We'll have a public comment at the end as well, but any other feedback? If not, Chief?
Good evening again. I'm not sure if you noticed on the way in to the building tonight, but the flag was at half-staff. The president has proclaimed today, May 15th, as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and May 13 through 19 as Police Week. Our flag will remain at half-staff until sundown, honoring the service of law enforcement officers throughout the United States. Construction of the new dispatch center and lockup has been started in Grosse Pointe Woods. Their lockup will be closed for approximately 3 months while they conduct their work in that area. So we'll be shuffling our detainees throughout the Grosse Pointes during that time. There are some significant enhancements to our current operation that we currently work under that I wanted to bring to your attention. They are improved safety for the officers and the city staff in Grosse Pointe Woods, improved security for the inmates, improved holding cell security, improved visibility into the holding areas, improved interview and room security, improved booking area and workflow. They're using tamper-resistant materials throughout their construction, separation of detainees from city staff, separation of detainees from the apparatus bay equipment, ADA ramp for accessibility, fire suppression system, and an increased prisoner holding capacity for us. I will be providing regular updates. I do have a drawing, which is in my office, unfortunately, but it's this is going to be a significant upgrade to our current operation, and it's going to be a very smooth transition. I'll be bringing in diagrams. We're going to have a PowerPoint at some point so you can all see what we're looking at here, and so I'll keep you posted on all of that. An update on the park operations. We have interviewed, done drug screens, backgrounds, and made offers of employment to 4 individuals for the position of park ranger. Over the winter, we had 1 resignation and 2 rangers who had requested that their hours be cut back. We are starting their training this week. I think we've got 4 really good individuals. I had an initial meeting with them last week, and they're into their, we've done their background, so they're good to go. And we're looking for another great year at the park this year. I'd like to speak briefly about solicitation. You may have noticed at your door, or you may have noticed from complaints that we get. I get them in my office in regards to increased requests for permits or for solicitation permits within the city. Aside from the church groups, the clean water, et cetera, we're now receiving permits from realtors, financial institutions, et cetera, to go door to door. I can tell you that this is not a solicitation-happy community. I get concerns to my desk. We scrutinize them. I everyone that sends me a request, I email them an application, and I email them the ordinance itself, and I require compliance in all areas of the ordinance. So just so you know, we can't deny these groups, and so I'm watching it diligently, and they're providing the necessary information that we need. Tomorrow, May 16th, marks 1 year since Public Safety Officer Zeph Boyai was sworn in. I've conducted a thorough review of Zeph's performance over the past year, and as well as his supervisors. It is the unanimous decision of his field training officer and shift commanders that PSO Boyai be confirmed as a PSO and terminate his probationary status. While many departments view the actual hiring and the shaking of hands and the pinning of a badge as the last step in the hiring process, the last step in our hiring process is successful completion of the probationary period. And we have extended probations. We have, some officers have been dismissed throughout their period. So we take this process very, very seriously. And just one final matter is that you're all familiar with the south wall corner of the yacht club, the accretion that builds up in the corner. It's for various reasons, it piles up in there. So one of my sergeants was a couple weeks back on a Saturday, saw two young men walking in there, and so he stopped to investigate. They were picking up debris, water bottles, trash, pieces of wood, and they were carrying them over to the side of the, by the break wall. So Sergeant Coe stopped and asked them what they were doing, and they said they were just cleaning up. And so he went back to the station, he got them some black bags. It's part of a school project. They did it completely unsolicited, and so I sent them both letters today. It's a school project, so I thank them on behalf of the mayor and council and the city for their efforts to beautify our community. They both live in Grosse Pointe Woods, as a matter of fact. So. And that's all I have for tonight. If you have any questions.
Keith, I got a question. It seems inevitably when I read the papers that you guys put out, the crime things, that most, or a lot of your stops, the people that are stopped don't have insurance.
Yep.
What is the percentage of your stops that, I mean, we're driving next to all these people on the road that don't have insurance.
Well, and the important thing is that there is from a lot of departments, excuse me, there's a reluctance to stop, investigate, take the car, write the violation. We get a per impounded vehicle, we get a fee. We're bringing them in if the insurance is fraudulent. We're finding some of those where they're actually printing their own binder of insurance. That's a felony. And what many departments are not looking into this as serious as we are, and we're taking them. We're arresting them. To give you a percentage, I would say at least 15 to 20% that are, and it's scary when you think that you're driving out in the community and you're walking through this community, but it's something that we've not shied away from, and we're continuing to enforce.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
Isn't that why we changed why you requested that change in the ordinance? So the revenues, instead of going to Lansing, go to us?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. And and it's surprising how a lot of departments feel that this is, and if they stop a person and it's expired, whatever, but we're finding that many just don't have insurance. Now, Michigan is an insurance high state, however, the welfare of the public is our primary concern here, so.
Good, Chief. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thanks, Chief. Brett, Public Works?
Chief, I have one question real quick. When we were doing the preliminary budget, I had sat in on that meeting, and the $60,000 for the breathing apparatus, at that time, you had mentioned because of the hurricanes that occurred last fall that FEMA was basically out of money, and that it really didn't make sense to go through the effort to write a grant at that time for the breathing apparatus. And as part of the recent omnibus spending bill that was passed federally, it has now been replenished, the FEMA money, and I wondered what your position was on that now.
Well, unfortunately, by the time the March 23rd signing of that bill, the window for the grant process for the AFG grant, which is the Assistance to Firefighters Grant. Window had closed. It opens in October, roughly October 15th, and it closes roughly December 15th. And we did contact Washington, and we inquired about it, and we did not submit based on their information. Unfortunately, the signing of that bill came after the window was closed. You know, we continue to look for grant opportunities. You know, we have an ongoing Homeland Security grant that we use for personnel. We've used the Bulletproof Vest grant as well. In all of this, in the interim, we received 3 large donations from a particular resident who wished to remain anonymous, and she, I sat down with her twice, and we talked about a project, and I said, well, we're looking to replace our breathing apparatus. And she became very enamored with this project. And so, depending on how you allocate funds, she paid for the entire project that we're now undertaking. So, we feel fortunate that she stepped up, and I must get 10 or 12 individuals per year. For example, we have access to a canine in Grosse Pointe Farms. We have a woman on Willow Tree who steps up, and every year she pays our $2,500 commitment to the dog. The residents of this community are so incredibly generous that, and I've sat down with many of them. We have another gentleman who came to me 5 or 6 years ago, and he said, what projects do you have? And the officers' sidearms were coming up 20 years old. He goes, I want to buy all the officers new sidearms, department carry weapons. He came in here, he became so enthralled in that project that he almost felt like he was part of the department. We laid all the guns out on the bench right in front of you, and he came and he looked at them and he said, this is really great. I really feel like I'm helping out. And it did us a tremendous service. So we will continue to look for grant opportunities, and we missed that window.
Do you think in October you guys would apply, though?
This coming October?
Yeah.
Well, you mean for the same project?
Yeah.
Well, the reason that I recommend against that is because that will put us back 15 months to 2 years. So if I apply in December, you aren't notified until the following June. By that time, if we get the grant, then we are talking about an extra 4 or 5 months to order the equipment. So right now, I don't know if I explained this as well, but currently Grosse Pointe Shores, the manufacturer that we use is not used in any other community in Grosse Pointe. So when we exhaust our breathing air on our trucks, we're out of air. We're done firefighting. So we're kind of flying without a net at the moment, so I'm reluctant to push this down the road and endanger the community perhaps because we can't put air on our backs and get inside. So it just is, it's one of those things. It was the timing wasn't right, and so that's what we're proceeding with.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Chief.
Mark
Okay.
has a comment.
Oh, I just was going to add, we appreciate you brought that to our attention in terms of the grant being refunded. There were other projects that the chief in his, I don't know, I think it's monthly meetings with the other chiefs, we will be applying for some other equipment that would benefit us. We're even kicking around this, there's a couple of projects that the chamber, through the Legacy on the Lake project, may actually fund for all of the communities like they did with the bikes a few years ago. But there'll be something that we will be applying for jointly with the other groups.
The one additional thing I wanted to mention is that our operating number of breathing air packs is 8. We have up to 4 on duty, but we have officers who come in on duty. There's one for the detective on days, there's one for myself, of course. And under the grant, you're only entitled to 1 air pack per seat you have on a truck. So the best case scenario with the grant, we would have gotten 4 air packs out of FEMA. But that was a great, I wasn't aware that they had been, refunded through that bill, so I thank you for that.
More important, thanks for that thoughtful response. I mean, obviously, a lot of thought went into it, so great to hear that you guys are exploring every option.
Absolutely, all the time. Thank you.
Okay, good. Brett?
Good evening, everyone. I can say your Public Works Department has been quite busy this past month. A lot of effort's been made to get our harbor open this year. we had enough water leaks in our water system out there to keep our crews busy for at least a week. I don't know if you remember, but this past fall, we had some very early freezing, and that caused quite a bit of damage as far as the water system goes, but I can say right now, our harbor is now open, and everything is up and operational. And I can say Bob and Fred have been also awful busy across the street. They've washed, drained, cleaned, and painted the big swimming pool. They started the filtration system yesterday, and if everything seems to be operating properly for a few days, we plan on starting our boilers up this Friday. The splash pad, as was mentioned earlier, has been ground. We had some standing water that needed to be removed. The grinding took place last fall, and we had the splash pad repainted this spring. It was just done last week. We still have a little bit of work to get that up and ready, but I'm sure it'll be ready to go before the holiday. I can also say, finally, the tennis court project has started. You may have noticed the fencing around the tennis court has been mostly removed. Next, we hope to see a big milling machine show up and start pulverizing the old courts. And once that's done, they'll start setting grades and preparing them for the new surface to go down. Obviously, the weather has been quite the factor with all the rain we've been having, but Nagel Paving still plans on staying on time with that project. I also will have a better idea of the plans for the parking lot this Thursday. We have a progress meeting every Thursday just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. We want to make sure our units that are used are settled on a day-to-day basis, and then we make sure that we settle with the contractor on a weekly basis. And they've been asked to provide me some kind of idea on what's going to happen with that parking lot. Preliminary discussions as they hope to have that done before the holiday as well. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. The weather's been quite the challenge here lately, and hopefully they're not just trying to egg us on and make us happy for no reason. We don't want to be let down. I can also say our seasonal employees are almost here, are almost all here, I should say, and we have a lot of new faces this year. It looks like we're going to have a good team. Sometimes we get a bunch of good guys and other times not, but this year it looks like we got a bunch of good fellows with good heads on their shoulders, and we're looking forward to a nice season with them, helping them grow. They help us out quite a bit. As far as helping us out goes, Harold and his staff have been crazy busy trying to keep up with his grass. It seems to be growing faster than it should be, and then it's so wet out there, it's hard to cut because it's just so wet. We've actually had lawnmowers get stuck in the grass, so that's been quite the challenge. And Mike Way and his crew have been working on the flower beds, again, as weather permits. He's had muddy feet for the last few weeks. He tells me he's going to be ready for the spring planting scheduled next Wednesday, the 23rd. And I see Helen's here. She may be speaking about that a little bit later. We've also had a couple unexpected sewer repairs. The first is a section of pipe that runs parallel with Lakeshore, and it starts about Woodland Shore and comes to the north about 500 feet. We were doing some work down there, and the guys noticed a waterfall type sound in one of the manholes. So we had a camera truck come in and televise the system, and what we found is leaky joints along the pipe that parallels Lakeshore. So what this was actually doing is we were getting lake water into our sewer system. So as of today, the joints have been sealed. We had a grouting team come in. I don't know if you saw the trucks down there for a couple days. All the joints are sealed, and we're currently waiting on a company, Liquiforce, to come in and line that pipe. I hope to see that this week, and hopefully that project will go smooth. So far it has been very smooth, but that is a problem that we continue to look for. That's called infiltration, and that's one of the reasons we have high sewer usage. The other one was a section of pipe I'm sorry, I just lost the name here. Fordcroft. We had a section of pipe on Fordcroft. We noticed a month or so ago, we had some issues with the road. We televised with our normal televising program. We knew we had a problem, but it was not a big issue. And then things started moving around a little bit. You could see the ground sinking, so we got another look at it, and it became an issue where we need to get it repaired right away. In this case, though, the soil, or the sewer was actually very deep, and the condition of the soil was poor. We had a one-day job scheduled with Fontana Construction, and it turned into a four-day job. They had to de-water, but I can also say Fontana Construction, they did a phenomenal job working in the conditions that they had. The owner of the company was in the hole. I mean, it was one of those kind of jobs where he had to tell the employees, step out of the hole, I need to get in there and take care of it. But they did a good job, and thank goodness they got it done before the rains came last Friday. They finished it Thursday night. So, I mean, timing was beautiful. So there's some mud in the street down there we have to get cleaned up, and some restoration work we have to do in the lawn area. Thank goodness it was not under the roadway. So we'll get that taken care of as soon as we get a chance. And Bruce has been out on the street sweeper. Once again, I can say, weather permitting, he gets out there for a day or so, and then the weather chases him back in because it's impossible to sweep the streets when it's raining. And again, weather permitting, our coal patch crew is out as much as we can. I think we're starting to get a good handle on things now that the weather's pretty much leveled off. We're not getting any more freezing. But as always, if you see anything that needs attention, please feel free to give me a call. And with that, that is all I have. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them at this time. Hopefully I didn't leave anything out.
Well, that was a good, long report, Brad.
I'm sorry, but there's a lot going on this time of year, yes.
How much infiltration did you think that was caused down there?
That particular one, it's hard to estimate, but when we looked at the video, you could see water squirting up through the joint of the pipe. I mean, it's a 24-inch pipe, and it was actually squirting up 4 inches. I mean, squirting into the pipe. So you multiply that times all the joints, it could be a significant amount. Our engineers are telling us right now that possibly 20% of our total sewage may be infiltration. That is one thing that this grant really helped us out for with televising our sewer system. We can get an eye and a handle on where these problems are. You gotta remember, the lake level is up, groundwater is up. Most everyone has water in their backyards, and wherever there's a weak spot or a little separation of the joint, water's getting in there. Yes, sir.
What was the beginning and end point of that ceiling job that you just mentioned?
Beginning and end point on Fordcroft, it was on Lake Shore Road from Fordcroft to the north 500 feet. Yes. That's all I have. Great, thank you.
Good.
Okay, yeah. Oh, Brett, I was gonna ask you, one quick question. What kind of paint are we using for the pool? Because last year there was some issue around the 4th of July, but,
We did have some problems with our pool last year in the paint, the problem was not the paint, it was the chemicals. We had, one of the numbers on our chemicals were off a little bit. We did get that back in line and basically solved the problem of the paint. We were using a Raymuck paint. Currently, it's a latex paint, however, it dries like rubber. It's a good pool paint that we do once a year.
is it from Cush Paint Company?
It comes from Cush Paint. They're a distributor for the Raymuck Corporation.
Okay.
And I believe that's one of the largest companies around that use that paint. This particular paint is used everywhere. A lot of people went back to the actual rubber-based paint. But to do that, we would have to totally strip our pool of the paint that's on it and start over again, so we elected to stay with that paint. A few years ago, there was a big push to go to the latex paint. Everybody wanted to get away from the oil base, and just like in your home, that oil-based paint is just something else that's great. It's hard to work with, and it's messy. So we took the advice of the professionals, and we tried the latex. And I don't want to say we're stuck with it, because it's working okay. Like the old school stuff a little bit better.
You like looking like a Smurf, is that it?
Well, what can I say? Yeah, you do look like a Smurf when
You look like a Smurf when you're done.
There's a lot of blue shoes and pants walking around, and with the old school stuff, you get like the cotton candy, and you did. You looked like a Smurf when you were done.
That's right.
All right, good, thanks, Brett. Park Committee?
Brett already mentioned the tennis courts and the parking lot over there, and knock on wood that stuff will be done by the time they say it'll be done. The Improvement Foundation funded the new aggregate in front of the pool house. If you haven't seen that, they did a great job. We were there for Arbor Day, and we set everything up on there and everything. They cleaned up all the forms and put everything, all the landscaping back, looked really good. So thanks to Improvement Foundation for doing that. Our next meeting is June 14th, right here at 9 o'clock, if you'd like to be there.
Good, thanks, Doug. Harbor Committee, Dr. Siegel? Thanks for coming.
Good evening, everybody. Real short Harbor Committee update. As you noticed, the crane and the barge is in the harbor, and they're getting the work done, so that was our main goal over the winter, so that's really good. Matt worked very hard with Harbor Master Krolchek, and came with a good result. Very fiscally responsible for that. As far as our protocol for vessels and their size in the wells, 16 boats up to date have been asked to move closer and bring all their outdrives, propellers, transoms, pulpits within the confines on the slip for the safety of pedestrians and boaters in the fairways. And then there are 3 boats that are oversized for their wells, and I believe the harbor master is going to contact them to get them to move so they're not encroaching on the fairways and causing a safety concern for other boaters.
What is the repercussions if they don't move? Because I know, I saw your email earlier today, 2 of those boats were not in compliance last year and were asked to move and to remove some of their ancillary toys from around and just never did. So what is our what is our course of action if they don't respond?
The same 2? We had the same 2 that were in violation last year? And we have larger wells?
It's been an ongoing thing since, I've been kind of following this up since 2015, it's just been continual. I don't know what you would do. I don't know if you have to get,
Either they will come in compliance or we'll pull their ability to park there.
Okay, good.
Are those residents or non-resident boats?
Don't know.
they're,
Yeah.
You can't put them in a bigger well.
The 2 of them are.
yeah, no, that you can move.
Yeah.
Just gotta go around the fairway open.
When I thought we agreed if we moved them to a larger well, we wouldn't charge them the differential
That's fair.
for this year.
For the difference for this year, yes.
Okay, just to get them accustomed.
I need to remember which ones they are. He's done a really good job communicating with Tom, as well as we're using, and I'll introduce him under my report later, our intern to go over and to make sure those. And one of the problems is, of course, Tom's not here on the weekends, but the doctor is, and that we get notes usually about these that we need to have checked, so.
Okay. Good.
I don't know, you have to like keep talking to them and tell them,
They will,
Comply.
I'm expecting compliance or they'll be moved out.
And Doctor, what is the occupancy right now? Is it,
well, right now it's, of actual vessels in the slips?
No, total
Money,
occupancy
we don't
is,
care about how many.
Okay, I don't have the exact.
We
It was 12 empty slips, so I know that's even probably getting smaller and smaller.
I talked with Tommy today. He said 6 to 8 slips
it's-
are
so there's-
unoccupied, so
I
yeah.
think a couple of things, the economy's doing real well,
Right.
and people are getting into boating more, and they realize that this is a great place to be, so all those combinations, we're gonna be sought after, so if you're not in compliance, I'm sure there's somebody who's willing to take your spot.
okay, well, thank you for coming. Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Infrastructure, Bob?
Rocket Fibers is sit back for further review for its financing, so maybe next month or the month after.
Okay.
Brett Smith and I made a little trip down the seawall, and because of the many nor'easters we've had here in the last 6 weeks, further deterioration. I got some pictures I can pass it around, the council wants to see them. It's not looking good. He has informed Wayne County, 3 separate departments to make sure that we're covered. I asked a dumb question about maybe we should stake some of these places off, and he says, well, if we do that, then we own it. So, we're kind of basically in Wayne County's hands to fix this.
It's terrible.
Wow.
And, Tommy found a picture. The seawall was built in 1932, okay? If you believe this or not, the cement was level. That tells you how much it has sunk at the seawall. The water right now is about 8 inches below the top of the seawall, and there's probably 30 or 40 breaches of the seawall where the water comes right on through now. There's probably more damage underneath the surface that you can't see. So, it's in Wayne County's hands. It's gonna take a lot of money to fix it, the stuff that's there now. And there is some hazards along there. That was just some of the 7 worst pictures we have.
Wow.
Look at this.
And,
It's horrible.
that's pretty bad, so. We're gonna keep an eye on them, keep some pressure on them. There's been no money from NOAA yet that we know of to help out. So, keep trying.
Alert our residents to stay away from this area? I mean, for safety reasons, because what is their recourse, Wayne County?
Yeah, we can do that. Good idea.
Nixle report or something, or whatever.
Because, look at that, look at this, yeah, it's horrible.
Well, it's clearly they're fully depreciated, I guess, from the accounting standpoint.
For
Well,
income
deterioration,
purposes.
You can see the wall, parts of the wall have tiebacks on them, and they're even pushed out.
I mean, you're saying the original, that wall was the height of the roadway, basically, in 1932, and so the late, because when you look at it, you always thought it was designed that way, that, you know, like, who would have ever?
Look at that picture, it was all kind of level. But the water was way out. It wasn't even close to that seawall. The picture that I saw upstairs.
Wow.
So, it's kind of an interesting, Tommy was just as much amazed at that photo as I was.
Wow. Well, like I said, I once said South Deeplands, I think, took my head down and looked under, and there was no wall. And then I'm thinking, where's the water going? The water's going eventually undermining Lakeshore. So we're gonna have a sinkhole right there in Lakeshore if this is not abated. Well, thanks, Bob, for
That's all I
the,
have. It's not good news, but
No.
we're gonna keep on top of Wayne County.
the next item is the Improvement Foundation. Brett?
Don't laugh. We might just-
Thanks for being patient tonight. We had quite a bit.
Council, Mr. Mayor, Brian, a little show and tell.
Oh,
Pass that around. This is the ice I want to show everybody.
Oh, okay.
Pass that around. We've contacted our salesman down in Ohio.
You slip and fall on this stuff?
Not if you're a lawyer.
You don't
Not
get
gonna happen.
Yeah.
So he'll be coming up here shortly, and we'll get some more ideas on where we can put the rink and the base and a little bit that we need to do our homework. And of course, we'll keep the council updated every step of the way.
Yeah, that's what he said.
We had a great Arbor Day success. We had a great turnout. Planted a tree for the Tech family in honor of Kurt Tech and his involvement with the foundation. I'd like to thank the councilmen and ladies who showed up for the Arbor Day. That was great to see you.
Cool.
Councilman Kuchek had touched upon the patio. That is all done. Looks great. We've even had a couple new interests about adopting some benches to put around the patio itself. So we'll be taking care of that. You have a sample of the ice rink there. That's called Glice. And again, we've got some good ideas coming up with that. And other than that, that's pretty much it for a brief report upon the foundation. If there's any questions I can answer, I certainly will try.
Well, I know you had a meeting recently, and it was a pretty good meeting, I guess.
Yeah, we
Good
did all
ideas.
right.
And
We'll be holding a special meeting before summer gets here and discuss a few other options, but other than
Okay.
that, I have nothing further to talk about. So, that conclude my report.
Thanks,
Thank
Brad.
you.
Matt, would you like to add anything, or?
No, just that, again, I appreciate all of Brett's efforts and the foundation donating that beautiful patio area and making that possible for our park. We have basically looked at this ice rink proposal and come up with some pretty cool ideas that we're throwing around. There's talk about some really neat possibilities as far as a big public event once it's ready to be unveiled and be a lot of fun, I think. Details are being worked out on that, so I don't want to really spring that. I did, as their liaison, approach the foundation and ask if they would consider partnering with the city on the tennis court project. And we talked about a sizable donation, and that is something that they need to discuss and see if it's a possibility. But, you know, I learned a long time ago, if you don't ask, you don't get. So the request has been made. I felt as though people were very thoughtful about their consideration of it. And I'm fingers crossed that we will be able to partner together, because I think the size of this project that's going on in the park is, I believe, like a 1 in 50-year type project. And I would love to see the community come together on this thing, and when we have the ribbon cutting, all be able to stand together, staff, council, foundation, and residents, and enjoy in the success of this. I think it's a home run for everybody, and I think that we all should be able to partake in it. So hopeful that the foundation joins us.
That will be one of our topics at our special meeting before summer gets here, so.
Thank you again, Brett.
You bet.
Can you put your tree hat on for a sec? I wanted to, you know.
Sure.
Since you're on the tree committee.
I am the tree committee.
Yeah.
You know, We've had,
So is Helen and me.
we've had 2 major storms in the last month, windstorms in this community. And I want to point out that through your efforts and Brett's efforts, we have not had any outages. We've had no downed trees in the streets. We've had no downed trees causing power blackouts. So I want to compliment both you guys for doing that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank yourselves for finding the money to allow us to do it.
You know, we didn't see, I mean, 'cause
I'm the chairman of the tree board, but the tree board does meet bright and early, and we're all part of this together, so I appreciate the,
but it does prove that if you maintain the program and you trim these trees on a regular, recurring basis, and like we're doing, you get on Edison's, you know, tush, it really makes a difference in keeping our community without any power outages.
back to zone 1 next year.
Mhm.
Starting all over again.
And it really makes the community look nice.
Good.
Yep.
Sure does. That it?
Thanks, Brett.
You bet.
Thanks for your good work. Brian, legal report?
Thanks, Mayor. Since the date of the last city council meeting held on April 17th of this year, city attorney has been engaged in the following activities on behalf of the city. First, under general municipal matters, we received and reviewed a number of Freedom of Information Act requests received by the city for payroll records on the one hand, check registers on the other, and some other financial records. We prepared draft responses to those requests so the city could timely send those out. Separately, we conducted a review of solicitation ordinance questions that were raised by the city. Chief Schulte mentioned those during his presentation tonight, or mentioned the issue during his presentation tonight. With regard to the PATS SOC bus service contract, we consulted with the city regarding certain proposed amendments to the PATS SOC bus service contract, and we're still in the process of attempting to arrange a meeting with SMART, the bus service provider, or the bus provider, I guess, to talk about those contract amendments and see if we can get some relief from some of the administrative requirements of the current contract. With regard to the tax reverted property owned by the city, we've conducted some review of statutory payment and disclosure requirements. We reviewed some correspondence received earlier from the Wayne County Treasurer. We corresponded with the buyer regarding sale status. Buyer's still interested in purchasing the property as far as we know. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more later. And then moving on to Deeplands Drive, the Wayne County Circuit Court appeal, really 2 things. One is, we have not received any word from the circuit court yet on the appeal of the city's zoning board's denial of the preliminary plat. We were expecting a written opinion by a week ago, May 8th. That was a date that the court had imposed upon itself to issue an opinion. We haven't heard anything yet, so no news is no news. The other is that the appeal, or in the Deeplands Neighbor Group's separate lawsuit that does not involve the city on the deed restrictions that affect the Deeplands property, I heard today from counsel for the Neighbors Group, just to give me a heads up, that the Neighbors Group is going to be filing an appeal of the Wayne County Circuit Court, and this is a separate judge. This is Judge Gibson, not our Judge Strong. Filing an appeal of Judge Gibson's denial of reconsideration in that case. So that's going to be filed sometime this week. I think the outside date for them to file that is this coming Monday, but I was told by counsel for the group that they're going to file it this week. On the Southeast Michigan sewage disposal services contract, we had quite a bit of activity on that over the last month. I'm going to let City Manager Wollenweber talk about it a little bit more. It's on new business. But we've conferred with counsel for Wayne County, counsel for the new authority. We reviewed their draft service contract. We attended a meeting at the Wayne County offices with about 15 or 20 people on this contract. That was a few weeks ago. We reviewed our city engineer's comments on the service contract. We prepared some comments to the authority regarding the contract on the one hand. We just received from the authority, and again, this is on Mark Wollenweber's new business agenda tonight. We just received a draft proposed memorandum of understanding that we're still reviewing and are going to meet with our city engineer, I believe, on Thursday of this week to go over some of the issues that contract raises. And then finally, on the property dispute between the owners of 566 and 570 Lakeshore, next door neighbors, it's a boundary dispute matter. We got the case assigned to Insurance Council. MMRMA is our insurer. They assigned the case to appointed counsel. We city attorneys are really kind of sitting back in that case and just eyeballing pleadings that come through to make sure that city's interests are being protected, but really it's in the hands of assigned insurance counsel. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Okay. Any questions for Brian? If not, thanks, Brian. Mark, your report?
Yeah, first thing I want to do is introduce this summer's intern is Brian Mack, and we'll make him, I think, I told him 15 minutes for his first public presentation. No, I'm only teasing. Stand up, say hello.
Hi, Brian. And Brian, your background is tailor-made for us, a degree in environmental management. Any questions for Brian?
No, and I would just tell you, he's working on a variety of projects for us. It will be assisting us, has done some work, and already on the shoreline protection project and stuff, and is assisting the chief, and he's assisting our Parks and Harbor folks by checking boats when they're out of compliance as well. And the only condition of his summer internship, and we do provide this, is he can't wear green. No, I'm only teasing. He has not done that. He's a Michigan State student and has done a wonderful job and come very well prepared to us. So, and he'll be shadowing me at various meetings. I think we got a bunch of them Thursday and next Monday. We got Detroit Area Agency on Aging and a Meals on Wheels thing, etc. I don't know that I sent to council, but we got an update from Art Woodford actually today, and I'll forward it tomorrow, but we're expecting the wording of our front and back of our historical plaque from the state for this building. and we should be getting that any moment, I guess, and we'll have an opportunity to review their write-up of the issues, but this building is being honored as its historical, because it's an Albert Kahn building going back to 1911. So we should have that. Unfortunately, I could not attend the prayer breakfast. I promised that I would do something with paperwork here and clean off the back counter, or Lori would be writing me nasty notes again. No, not at all. But next year, we're the hosts for it. We'll be working on ideas and suggestions, and it really came up afterwards. It was briefly talked about, and I know the mayor will talk about the mayor-managers meeting, but how each community, here we basically buy a table, and members of council and staff and our staff participate. Brett's always there. The chief and public safety help empty the parking lot once it's over. Lori and Lynn are there to, take and hand out the tickets and things like that. But again, attendance has been declining, and it is on. It always depends on the speaker, and of course, new records were set when Ernie Harwell did it. Jason Hansen, pretty good too. So we got to look, and we always have assistance from Ed Russell and Mike Timmis in terms of selecting the speaker. Do a wonderful job. But next year will be our turn to be the host. The mayor will have to do introductions, etc., which will only be the second time, I think.
That's right.
He had to do it. So that'll be coming up. Brett talked about the park and the tennis court update. We're looking still on time. Might be a week or so late for tennis events, but again, we got an excellent contractor. He's moving forward, and as part of the things that Brett does for any major contract, he has a construction debriefing meeting every week, and he's on top of them, usually on a daily call, to find out where we are, what's happening. The court administrator that we share with the farms, we pay a portion of her salary. There is a new one, and she comes to us from a municipal court in Grosse Pointe Park. Took an early retirement. I think the farms were excited to get her. We're excited to get her, and I think there's a relief on the part of our staff, how cooperative and stuff. And we'll all miss Madeline, who did a wonderful job for the years that she was here. But Sue Thomas, you'll see a new name on the report from the court on what was collected and things like that. Really good. I think she's an excellent person and will do a great job. I also want to thank, and Brett didn't mention it, Brett Marshall mentioned some of the things, the Improvement Foundation, but with their help on projects over the winter and this year, the new liner for the baby pool was put in. If you haven't been, please look at the area in front of the pool house for the exposed aggregate that they put in there. Excellent job. They're also maintaining the outlooks, as they were called, that Mary brought to our attention, and Helen does such a great job along with Mike. But they've helped us by contracting with Landscape America, who is a longtime member of the a resident here and a longtime member of the Grosse Pointe Shores Improvement Foundation. It was great that his bid to do the maintenance was the lowest bid. So we thank them for all the projects we got this year. And you've heard me talk about the bike fixes stations for at least 3 years. We finally got a check from the county.
Wow.
And, I think, it was, I've talked about movies being like widescreen spectacular movies, years in the making. It's taken years to get this reimbursement from the county. And the first thing we got was a purchase order. Like, send me the money. Don't send me a purchase order. But we just got it in the mail. Rhonda informed me on it. A couple of other items. One of the questions that came to me, and I asked Brett about it, is why did we put the lights back up on the tennis court since we're fixing them? And the answer is, when we get those new courts poured, we do not want heavy equipment driving on those courts. So, I mean, it made perfect sense, but I couldn't figure the answer out until I asked him. So you should know that. Brett in the past we're fortunate that the council has provided us the opportunity to use what we feel, meaning staff and primarily Brett, which are the best engineers for which project. So we usually take prices, and there are some projects we don't need engineers to do, but there are others that we do. And Brett years ago was able to attend the 100th anniversary of Hubbell, Roth and Clark, and they're helping us. Very, very important that they're working on our behalf with the Wayne County folks on these sewer issues. And I was able to attend last Saturday the 50th anniversary of Anderson, Eckstein, Westruck. And, you know, we're just fortunate that we have a couple of the premier agencies, and we appreciate council's consideration. That means when Brett tells me these are the right people to use on a particular project, or we don't need them, like we didn't last year on some of the projects, we were able last year to pave, or in our current budget, but last summer, to pave 2 or 3 more streets than repairs because of the work that he did with the contractor. So we appreciate that. Final thing I want to mention is we had an issue, Shorecrest Circle, is that right, where the flooding occurred? One of the items to be replaced in the next budget, starting July 1, is the generator at North End Pump Station. And even though we exercise it every week and we had the oil change and all that stuff, it failed the last time DET's power went out. And as a result, water backed up into 10 basements. Our contractor, which is a Construct Team, I believe it is that right? Went in, cleaned those basements. We made our insurance claim for it. We're still in discussions with them about some of the repairs necessary to restore those basements. But great job, again, response on the part of our staff as well as our insurance carrier, and that's why we belong to MMRMA. We might be eating into our rebate that we get each year to help repair some of those basements, but we're still working on that. And that was it for me.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Any questions?
I have a comment. Mark, I just wanted to say, I've heard that night, and I don't know, Brett, you're probably involved in it too, but that night when the generator failed, we were on site within hours of these basements flooding. It wasn't a day, it wasn't a day or two, it wasn't a week. We were there that night cleaning up. And I think those are the kind of world-class services that we've been trying to deliver, and my hat's off to you.
Well, thank you.
And it also limits our exposure, you know, so if you
It
can,
means a lot to the residents that they know that you guys are there and on it.
thanks, Matt. Thanks, Mark. Next item, we go right to new business, public safety PSO contract approval.
This is the first item this evening. We, again, with the work of the Finance Committee and each of the council members on it, parameters were set for staff to negotiate our contracts. It happens that this year, our discussion with the Public Safety Officers Unit, they're represented by outside one of the union reps, went first, and we have a tentative agreement. Happy to tell you it's in keeping with those of our neighboring communities. It maintains their level, and we're recommending approval of PSO contract. Basically, to the public, it provides a 2.5% increase for the next 3 years, which sets the boundaries in terms of some other minor items. But it really was accomplished in, I think, 2 meetings. I'm sorry the chief isn't here to tell, but, you know, there's some language changes, some feedback from those employees, and we're expecting probably by next month we'll have wrapped up the command officers as well as the AFSCME group that are the DPW employees. And that's, again, within the boundaries established in discussions with the Finance Committee.
Okay, At this point, are there any questions about the contract? The specifics are discussed here on page 89. Increase in the uniform, a little bit increase in public safety-related classes, sick time spread over 3 years at a 75% accumulated unused sick time. That's banked. So I invite a motion to approve the proposed 3-year agreement based on the above summary.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The next item is, and I know last time it's the gatehouse building approval. Is that up here, Mark? Let's see, I don't see the page for it. At the last council meeting in April, we approved the concept of the gatehouse and to place it out for bidding. At this point, we're ready to accept a contract not to exceed $60,000, I believe.
Yes.
The concept's here, if anybody wants to take a look at the proposed gatehouse design. But at this point, the council is approving the gatehouse building contract and allowing the city to proceed with APCOR construction at a price not to exceed $60,000. Again, this is the one a donor is going to pay for the entire cost of the project. So,
With bathroom, without?
without bathroom.
Without, okay. When would this construction begin?
Is this after the parking lot? Is this the parking lot?
It's a different contractor. It will be coordinated with them. There might be some other repairs and or things there, but their schedule would be such that it could be done, it will be done this summer if it's approved.
So we don't think it'll be done till Labor Day? With all the paving and everything else?
It's likely to be done before that, from what we've been told, but we haven't had a pre-construction or anything with the contractor.
Okay.
This is APCOR Construction, who was the successful bidder on this project, and their project manager is a Grosse Pointe Shores resident. The owner of the company is a Woods resident, whose son played at Williamsport last year and playing again.
Oh, good. That's great.
Now, this is just for does this include foundation work and all that stuff, or, I mean, I don't know what the scope of the documents.
Yes.
This doesn't include electrical.
No, it includes everything on the inside and construction of this. Will be bringing power. Power will be brought to the.
This
to the
includes
location.
mechanical then, too?
Mhm.
And fixtures and doors and locks and windows
This
and
is
glass?
out the door, yeah.
This is all inclusive.
So it's pretty inclusive.
Without a restroom.
Want a motion?
Yes, I'd like
You're
a,
young, you can.
I invite a motion to
I'd like to
accept.
move to approve the gatehouse building project and allow the city to proceed with APCOR construction at a price not to exceed $60,000. Sufficient funds have been identified.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay. Thanks. The next item, new business C, is the proposed service contract approval from
Yes.
pages.
Brian and I will, as he mentioned earlier in his report, we attended a meeting with Wayne County. We are not, the Southeast Macomb Sanitary District is, first of all, Wayne County's getting out of the sewer business. They're selling their downriver facility, which is an actual sewer plant. They're getting rid of the Northeast Relief System. They frankly they don't have the staff to operate it. It's operated from way downriver by telemetry and stuff. And Southeast Macomb Sanitary District has agreed to I don't know that I want to call it a purchase price, but this was the subject, and we happen to be, while the very smallest member of the Northeast Relief System, we're kind of stuck out on our own because Grosse Pointe Woods and Harper Woods, which also contribute to this system, along with St. Clair Shores, Roseville, and East Point, are all they're part, at least St. Clair Shores, Harper Woods, and Grosse Pointe Woods, are all part of the Milk River drainage system, which is currently undergoing certain improvements along the river, et cetera, and back at their plant. There was a storage facility that was created back there. And this issue has been the discussion. Our commitment, and Brian, if you want to add to this, was that we would bring this to our council at the very next meeting. And we are still awaiting a completed memorandum of understanding. Bruce participated with us as Mayor Pro Tem in the meeting. Our engineers have met for several hours with the engineers on behalf of the Southeast Macomb Sanitary District. Our suggestions for improvements to their contract have not been, finally addressed, but we agreed to bring this to council's attention this evening, subject to the completion of a successful memorandum of understanding. We've seen the very first draft of it, or Brian has. It's on my desk to actually look at. So we're waiting our next meeting with our engineers. They're meeting, the set of engineers, ours and theirs, are meeting on Thursday morning, and then Brian and I will be meeting with, and Brett, with our engineers shortly after that, along with Harper Woods and their attorney.
I notice the contract's only 38 pages long.
You're gonna be, I mean, everybody's kind of falling asleep because this is like,
Yes.
This is a big deal. This is a very big deal for us. The contract's very important because if you read it and you look through it, we're allowed so many cubic feet per second of sewage going down the pipe. And there's an argument that we're exceeding that. So there's all kinds of hidden potential financial implications to this. Retroactive billing, prospective billing, excess charges. They're looking at wanting us to implement storage facilities to hold the to hold the sewage and all of this. So we went to this meeting and they were basically, we're the big guy, you're the little fish. Except we have to agree to this in order for them to go to the next step, which is they have a bunch of bonds. And they've got to get their bond and their debt transferred. So that means we have a little leverage. So what we said was, we're not going to sign this contract without us as a city agreeing with our engineers' assistants to a side deal. Well, we don't care what this document says. We want a memorandum of understanding that lays out our needs and wants, particularly about retroactivity, look back on fees, and all these other items. We're 3 cubic feet per second out of, 127? We're minuscule. And they want to browbeat us about this, and at the same time, we're arguing, you can't even measure that close. And then we find out that half the sewage flow is coming from Lake St. Clair. It's going into our sanitary system, so we're draining the lake. And we told them that if we determine that the infiltration is caused by your seawall, whatever that number is, one, we're not paying for it anymore. We want money back, because we paid the sewage charge. And two, it's going to be added to our flow numbers. Well, let me just tell you, that was about 5:30, right? We've been there since 4 o'clock. And they kind of got a little grumpy at that point. But then they agreed to the memorandum of understanding. So that's why I'm saying we have to. This is something that it's boring, but has a big impact on our community long term. Because if we don't get this thing the way we want it, they're talking about us putting a storage facility in. It means we got to store water someplace in our town. Well, hell, where are we going to do that? And so it could be. We're not anywhere close to going to that. We're going to fight these guys, and we're going to get what we want.
I'll just add that the contract that is included as a part of your package tonight, we went back and forth with the sewage district, the new sewage district, on contract terms, and they were intractable with respect to the form of the contract itself. They said that, we have to do this in order to get the transfer of the system from Wayne County to us, and then Wayne County, of course, gets about $4 million plus for the transfer of the system. So we're kind of working hand in hand, if you will. But by the same token, as Bruce and Mark both pointed out, we said, well, we'll recommend, since you're not going to move off the boilerplate of this contract on the one hand, we'll recommend that the city council approve the form of the contract, because I think we have to. And on the other, we want a memorandum of understanding that covers things like, again, enforcement for past exceedances, grace period, if you will, for coming into compliance on a going forward basis, necessary studies. I've had some discussions with counsel for the sewage district here just this week, yesterday, and said, you know, I've got some comments on your memorandum of understanding, and I'll redline them and get them back to you. But in the main, you know, we can't jump into the timeframes that you have, and here was 90 days for corrective action plan, 180 days for implementation. We have to meet with our city engineers later in the week, who in turn met with your own engineers in the preceding week. And, you know, they're hammering out some details, but we've got a ways to go on it. So on the one hand, yes, you know, the recommendation tonight is, you know, approve the contract pro forma, the service contract, if you will, but that's, you know, there's a big dangling participle there, which is this memorandum of understanding, which, you know, they agreed to provide us with. And I don't see it as totally onerous, but we you know, the devil's in the details, and the details are going to be worked out, at least in part, by the engineers. So,
Thanks, Brian, for your comments. I noticed a lot of signatories required. I mean, as far as we know, is everyone going to agree to this contract?
I think so.
Adhesion
They
contract.
don't, it's a contract of adhesion, yeah. But they don't have the issues that we have.
Okay.
The other cities don't have
Yeah,
the issues that
just
we
let
have.
me add that Brett mentioned some numbers earlier, but actually, we're currently, one of our CFS on dry weather flows shows that we're pumping the lake. And that's why it was important to get that thing repaired. We'll know more after Thursday's meeting. Our engineers, and that's, in this case, HRC, really understands our sewer system, are meeting with their engineers, a person by the name of Kyle Seidel, and there were just other issues, and we're sharing our information. We shared our information. Both the Woods and Harper Woods came to the meeting. I think since they're kind of included in the Milk River process, where they actually have a rotating member on the Milk River board, so they have some input into it. We've raised a number of issues. We'll be talking about those, but once the engineers have identified, and I know more after Thursday's meeting, there were just a number of non-starters with respect to this. I don't want to go into in significant detail to bore everybody, but they have identified a number of cost centers and said, we've got to participate with that. Well, one of their consultants didn't even understand that the Chapiton and Martin Basin, which I worked in St. Clair Shores for 15 years and am very familiar with their operations. Chapiton was built with a special grant, and Hubert Humphrey, when he was vice president in 1962, I think. No, that wouldn't have been right, 68, I think, when he was vice president under Johnson, actually came to dedicate it. But they got, so, you know, for us to think that they're going to charge us back for our share of maintenance on something that we don't even impact upstream is different. But there are things that we impact. The engineers are working on that. It looks to me, from what Jesse Vandercreek had indicated, that we'll know more after Thursday, and we'll keep everyone apprised. But this action was what we agreed to do, and frankly, the part-time person left in Wayne County Engineering that understands the sewer issues was actually helpful to us at the one engineers meeting, which is why they kept Brett and I away from the meeting, so that we wouldn't get too angry and, you know, and perhaps say things we shouldn't have. But there'll be plenty of time for that. But when they tell us, and Jesse did a really good job of indicating really things that we do implement. And again, we are such a small, but our negotiations with Wayne County have been going on, discussions with Wayne County and our engineers, HRC in this case, have been going on for at least the 5 years. This is the 6th budget I participated in. And again, I just want to say this, thanks to Bruce, I didn't have to say anything about the budget, because he does it all. But for all that time, we've been suggesting that we need some additional capacity. And one of the things we're exploring, again, it was Bruce's suggestion that we do this, isn't there something we can fix upstream or west of us that would allow us to shift some capacity from them. Again, I don't want to pay penalties. I think it makes sense for us to pay to fix something. And if we can help a Harper Woods or a Grosse Pointe Woods with respect to that, that's the approach that we want to take. But we'll know more after Thursday. But again, this is before you this evening because that was our commitment. Brian agreed to it. I tried to get out of it, but it's on the agenda because we agreed to do this. We ask you to take the action. Our recommendation is approve it subject to an acceptable memorandum of understanding.
Okay, with that, I invite a motion with that conditional language. So we accept the contract, but with the understanding that we have an acceptable memorandum of understanding, side agreement.
So moved.
Is there support?
He's actually got the language.
Got the language right here.
Oh, okay, then why don't you,
It is recommended to approve the proposed SEMSD service contract based on the letter attached and subject to the acceptable memorandum of understanding.
good, thank you, Bob. There's any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. And the last item, Mark, is, well, that came out at the managers meeting.
Yeah, we put this on the agenda, and you can speak to it. I would like to be an early adopter of these things. Beaumont has been working, and actually a good friend to all of us know her, Susie Birchback, is their liaison to the communities, is a healthy wellness program for all of the Grosse Pointe and Harper Woods. They'll be working in conjunction with the other two hospital systems, and frankly, I want to say it's a no-brainer. I included information from her presentation in the packet, and it's a healthy community initiative, building health and wellness one community at a time, and I think it's worth us participating in this, no cost. There's some other, plenty of opportunity for sharing of information along with the other hospitals. We all have each of our favorites that, your doctors are assigned to, et cetera, but this is going to be broader than just Beaumont. They just happen to be the lead at this point, so. And Ted, at the mayor-managers meeting, we had the presentation on this, and we think it's a no-brainer to participate.
Well, it doesn't cost us money, number one. Number two, it's wellness. It's about preventive health care and keeping you out of the hospital. And it will be broad-based. It'll include St. John's Hospital, Henry Ford. Beaumont suggested it, but they're reaching out to the community. So it's a good, I guess, a feel-good thing about ourselves as a community. And like Mark said, he wanted to be a leader. All the cities are joining in. All the Grosse Pointe cities are joining in for the same reason, that there's no downside. There's no cost, and it's to promote healthy living, preventive care when you can, and just make us aware of it. So I don't see a downside either. I welcome a motion to approve it.
I'll have the recommendation here. It is recommended to approve the memorandum of understanding with Beaumont Health to establish a partnership and ongoing working relationship within the community.
Is there support?
Support.
And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Public comment.
Ears kind of perked up earlier when I heard Brent talking about the cost of the overage of water that's going through the sewage that we're paying for because they don't have the seawalls fixed properly. And then when you've had this recent conversation, you said the Great Lakes or someone's taken over the sewage. Wayne County got rid of the sewage part of the business now. They're not going to be responsible for it.
Well,
I understand. Okay. Now, does that include the seawall? Did it go with the sewage, or is that a separate issue?
Separate.
And then that's greater concern I have, that Wayne County isn't going to be very anxious to pay anything, to do anything, but I think you have to really pursue what this overage is that's going in there, because it may be 5 years from now before they fix that seawall. And I think they should be made aware that, you know, we've got a problem and you're responsible and you're responsible for this extra cost and we expect you to pay for it.
Okay.
I think that has to be followed up on because Wayne County will be very slow, my feeling.
Vito, they don't have 5 years on that seawall to fix that.
Sorry?
They don't have that much time. The water level being as high as it is, that,
As fast as they move in Wayne County, yeah, I
well,
wouldn't.
we realize that. You gotta go follow the,
Vito, you're right about one
Agenda.
thing. Wayne County, if there's an opportunity to go look backwards and say, you know, they want to charge you for an overage of sewage flow. Okay, and then you have to unequivocally say, it's your responsibility, and we want our money back because we paid for it. That'll slow them down. That gets their attention. And that's why this memorandum of understanding is so important, because these are issues exclusive to us, you know, because who else got a seawall and water drainage, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, and these are things that we know because we live here.
Right.
And if,
Okay.
you have to just assume that they're not gonna deal with you in a fair and a local. If they can get money out of you, they're gonna get money out of you.
Right.
And they really have an attitude that we are an entitled community. So, you know, you gotta be you gotta just be tenacious with them. You really have to be. And they don't like that at all. I can tell you that Brian had, it was a little tense, a little, with him and the other attorney. They were kinda, there were no swear words, but it came real close.
Preceded the meeting.
Yeah. So in other words, he did a good job for us. We're
Very good.
boy,
I was
good man,
glad to
you
hear
know.
that after, but when I first heard it when Brent brought it up, that, hey, wait a minute, there's something wrong here, because
Well, see,
why should we be paying for it?
It starts all the way back when we got we televised all of it, we cleaned Lakeshore sewer, we televised the sewer, so we get a road map of where the waters come in. Then we got the engineers to put flow meters around the community to see where all the stuff's coming from. Okay, and then the water's infiltrating, then we find out where those sources are, and if they're our responsibility, we fix them. Then if it's the lake afterwards, well, then that's theirs. And then we have the empirical evidence, the engineering documentation to tell them to go, you know, write the check. We're not gonna just knuckle under them.
At the end of the day, it's going to be up to the engineers to be able to separate what is the inflow resulting from the lake that, as to which seawall hasn't been repaired, and what's truly the city's inflow. I mean, it's an equation at the end of the day, and, you know, I don't know what it is, and that's why we're meeting with, our engineer on Thursday, and I'm not sure we're gonna have the answer to that question on Thursday.
Not that quick.
But
But I
that's
wanna make sure.
obviously the end game here, that's the purpose.
Okay. Very
Thanks,
good.
Vito, for your comments. Any other public comment?
I'm afraid I got a little mixed up. I thought I was commenting on an agenda item, and then it turns out I guess I was commenting on a non-agenda item, which is, when we had this town hall meeting, we talked extensively about the big approach road that we're going to put in where the gatehouse is going to be, and I thought that was all one and the same, and there was quite a debate between, I think, Councilmember Bisbal and Councilmember Seeley on what that was going to cost. So enlighten me, have you already decided to build this approach road that's already been voted on and approved, and you know how much it's going to cost? Did I miss that? Because we were talking about it, and there was a big debate at the town hall, and I thought that was all tied into the gatehouse.
Well, all we talked about today or voted on was the gatehouse, approving a building contract that was competitively bid, and that's all we decided today.
Okay, do you know where it's going to go? Do you know where the gatehouse is going to be placed?
We know I think the approximate location. I think the architect has issued a rendering. I don't know if it's been taped off in the, if it's been actually taped off for the
And
purposes.
is that going to be on some new approach road that's going to go into the park?
That's the plan.
That's the plan, but we don't know how much that's going to cost yet.
It hasn't been put out to bid.
Do we have any idea what it's going to cost,
Well,
roughly?
we have some estimates. Mark has talked to the contractor. We have some rough estimates what it would be.
$200,000?
Less.
Okay.
But let's say, okay, 200.
Okay, I was just trying to get a handle on it because that's what we had talked about, and then all of a sudden, we're just gonna do the gatehouse, and then we're gonna vote
Just to-
later on the road, so the.
Just to clarify, Harry, 2 meetings ago, the motion was made that we adopt, approve, and construct the gatehouse and the private entrance, the new entrance to the park.
Right.
Tonight, we were just approving the contract for the construction of the gatehouse. Once we have the actual contractor selected for the road, we'll have to approve that. But that's where we're at.
And the timeline for that is,
We're hoping by Labor Day, everything's done.
so we'll be digging it up all summer long to get it done by Labor Day.
The good news is that this is being done in 2 phases. Mark had recommended that. So they're going to do the tennis courts in the parking lot ASAP so that the park is completely functional. Nothing will be different. We'll just have a new parking lot and new tennis courts. Then once that project is done, we can cordon off the area where the road is going to be put on, and that work can be done without interruption of the functionality of the park, and that'll be done as a phase 2. But in tandem with that, the gatehouse will be built.
Well, there'll be construction equipment and all that out there, I mean,
Right, it just won't be, it won't be on the new parking lot, and it won't interfere with anyone's ability to use the park or anything like that.
so the $60,000, it's my only last question, does that include the automatic gate arm that is gonna be there to protect the kids when they're coming across Lake Shore into the park? Does that $60,000 include that automatic gate arm?
No, I don't believe there's going to be a gate arm.
Oh, there's not gonna be a gate arm? The reason I ask was at our town hall meeting, we have a crosswalk there where there's a traffic light.
And there was
And the
to
kids
be-
walk across the traffic light in their bikes. I mean, our kids did it. Lots of people fortunately walk or ride their bikes to the park. So they go to the gatehouse and they show their park pass, and then they have to walk across this approach road to get into the park. Or am I mistaken? Is there a bridge or?
No, to answer your question, as far as the cost of the
I
gatehouse.
know you think it's funny, Tina, but
Sorry.
you weren't at the town hall meeting to hear some of this discussion.
But the thing is, Harry, is that, all of this was discussed at the meeting. And at that time, I had mentioned that this was all approved and that we're just moving forward. Tonight, earlier, I misspoke because I also know there was a slight design change. I was confused that we were also awarding the contract to construct. But to answer your question, part of that project is not to put the arm in that has been suggested by public safety. And, obviously there will be a cost for that, but it'll be incorporated probably at the time that the road goes in. But there are going to be some ancillary costs that have not been addressed. But yes, I think if the chief recommends that we have an arm to make sure that pedestrians and bike traffic are safe from cars entering the park, that's not a big
Well,
deal.
that should be a huge concern. I mean, the safety of the kids.
We're going to do whatever the chief recommends, and absolutely, we agree with you on that.
And if there's nobody operating the gate, then that could be theoretically become problematic. So I hope we take that into consideration.
I think if you use the Grosse Pointe Farms Park as a example of what we're trying to do, I think when their gate is unattended, that the arm is just left in an up position. But in our case, while it's attended, the operator who's there checking park passes will have autonomy over when that gate is raised or lowered so that he can make sure that if kids are coming in on bikes or whatever, that they're safe.
In the farms piers, that gatehouse is unattended for 9 months out of the year?
I'm not sure what their procedure is or staffing levels are. The Woods Park has the same situation with the arm. I don't know what their staffing levels are either.
I thought they were there anytime the park was open. They've got people in those gatehouses.
We have someone who works at our park 24/7, as you know, and if it makes more sense to have that person moved across the parking lot to the gatehouse, and that's where they're stationed in the future, if that's what the chief recommends, I'm sure we'll take that into
We'll start
consideration.
Staffing the gatehouse then 24/7.
We already do that. I'm just saying if we move somebody across the parking lot, it will still be the same staff level.
Okay, I see. Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, Harry. Oh, Vito?
Yeah, I had another question about that. When I saw the picture floating around and Harry talked about the open door, and I was just wondering what this gatehouse really is. But I've wondered if the guy is going to check the cards of the individuals, he's gonna have to step out of that gatehouse in order to get in the road. Are you gonna have I don't see any cover over the head when it's raining or anything that would protect him that, I
Like
think
an
would
awning?
be there. An awning or something?
It's a good point.
I think
Yeah, I
something.
don't think the Farms has one either, because we just went there to see what it was like. And Harry's right, they have a crosswalk right behind the gatehouse with like a little, striped with, yellow paint or something to let people know that children or young adults or older adults might be using that crosswalk. But I don't know, it's a good point. Again, it's evolving. And what people are forgetting is that new approach lane saves us $41,000, which is our cost to widen. We're out of compliance right now. A fire truck really can't get into the park. And here, I think the cost is $41,000 to widen that entranceway. And when we do that, we're gonna lose our historic gates. We're gonna lose the charm of those beautiful wrought iron historic gates.
I think some people had another idea that you could have a panel that could be removed. You're talking about a hook and ladder, you're not talking about our fire trucks, because our fire trucks get in.
I'm talking about a serious fire, we need an aerial truck, you can't get in. Our trucks can get in, maybe it takes a perfect turn.
In the event of a harbor fire, and we have to use Grosse Pointe Woods ladder truck, we are out of compliance right now because that truck cannot fit into our entrance.
Can it fit
So-
in the other entrance?
No. So there's not a big enough turning radius for it.
Gonna Make the other one wider too then?
No, so then, they're not, that's not a municipal situation. So the reality of it is that if we were to do nothing, we would have to spend $40,000 to widen that entrance. We'd lose our 100-year-old historic gates. This new entrance proposal has a large enough radius that it can accommodate the ladder truck. And in the rare event that there was a harbor fire, we would be able to be in compliance, get that large ladder truck out there where they could go all the way up in the air and shoot an arc of water across the harbor to put out a fire. So that was one of 6 points that were brought up back in February that were concerns that have all been addressed with this new issue, with this new entrance.
Is there any more public comment, Helen?
On the yacht club, the chief made them put in some extra fire hydrants out on the docks when they redid the thing. So the chief directed them to do that, because you can't get a truck in there. When you get a fireboat down, it'd just be too late. But he made them put a couple extra things up there for firefighting.
I'd be interested if all the parks are able to accommodate
The city couldn't. I lived at the, I wouldn't know, I haven't been back in there in years.
The problem is because we're redoing the parking lot, we have to bring everything up to compliance. We don't have a choice. So regardless of what's happening in other communities, the second we decided to resurface that parking lot, our entrances need to be in compliance.
Okay, thank you. Helen? I know we got an exciting event next week.
I want to talk about something that Desmond just had, which was Arbor Day. This is the shirt that was specially made for the occasion. The back is the National Arbor Day Foundation logo. So this is what all the Fun Run people wore. People actually purchased this shirt at Arbor Day. I think there are a few available yet. You might ask upstairs if you're interested. But the hoops we have to jump through, Bruce, one of them is we have to have a maintenance program to become a Tree City USA. 15 years we've had tree trimming as part of our maintenance program. It's one of the hoops that we go through for this honor, which is an extreme honor. 3,400 cities in the U.S. are tree cities, and we are one. So Arbor Day, when you go out, take a look at the posters in the police department. Just a few of them. There aren't many. Take a look at them. The children were amazing. Brett presented them with their certificates. Some won $50 certificates for first place. Some won runners-up for $25. It was as if they had won the lottery. I mean, these children were amazing. So their pictures are going to be displayed in the police department until the end of May. Take a look at them. Now, 2 things are coming up for beautification. Next week, Wednesday, we'll be working at the park. Planting is amazing what the committee does in a morning. From 9 o'clock, 9:15 to 11:30, we plant everything at the park, all the annuals. That's Wednesday. Thursday, we do the same thing here at the municipal building, but we also have pizza on the stairs. That's our little reward, I guess, for planting like crazy those 2 days. If it's raining, Friday is our rain date. We invite any resident who likes to plant, likes the camaraderie. We're a really happy group. Come and join us. I know Vito often does. Are you coming to Vito? Ha! Great. So that's one thing. Second big thing that we're doing, beautification, is hosting our Shred Day. That's going to be June 2nd, and it all depends on what's happening at the park, if we can have it there. If not, it'll be over here at the municipal parking lot. That's going to run from 9:15 until 11:30. All the Grosse Points are invited to participate, and includes Harper Woods also. We have just a fantastic turnout. The last couple times we've hosted a Shred Day, and we always get calls upstairs, and the people up there tell us how much the residents and other folks who call in like our Shred Day. Grosse Pointe North and Star of the Sea, the kids come out, they help us, they are amazing, they are so polite, they are so efficient. Even the people who bring things to shred compliment those children because they are just wonderful workers. We're having those kids again. Doug is our treasurer. He handles the money. And then we also have John Pollock. He is our what would you call him? The overseer of the children, I guess. He organizes them beautifully. It's a really well-run event. It's a great time, and you get rid of all those sensitive documents that you want to shred. So, June 2nd, 9:15 to 11:30, we'll either be at the park if the paving is done, or if at least we can get in. If not, we'll be right here out front. Okay?
Thank you, Helen.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad you brought up the shirt. This
Thank you for the shirt.
was manufactured by my neighbor, Dan Stahl, and donated to the city. So I want to thank Dan Stahl and his business enterprise.
Hey, Vito, too, I just took a look at the architectural rendering. There is an overhang so that if a tenant has to stand out in the rain, they have a little bit of cover. Gary, I've got a copy of that design that was MDOT approved if you want it. Okay? And the
Thanks, Matt. Any other public comment? If not, it's council member comment time. Bob?
Almost up, Mayor.
Matt?
no comment. Thank you.
Tina?
Just that the pool and the park is going to be opening soon. Come out, enjoy it. Enjoy everything that we have been doing, and the reason that we live here is to enjoy that beautiful view, the park, the Improvement Foundation, the grills, the picnic tables, and all of that. So get out and enjoy the summer.
Thanks, Tina. Bruce?
All set.
Bob?
Nothing further?
Doug?
We're not done yet. No, I had a resident approach me at the Arbor Day Farm Run and suggest, you have the chess and checkers tournament, and that maybe you might think about adding some games,
Okay.
like a game day. He suggested cornhole.
Beer pong?
For a guy like you and me.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be any good in college.
Cornhole.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's the one the older folks play now? Pickleball.
Pickleball. Okay.
So,
Good
some
idea,
Maybe
yeah.
expand their chess and.
Okay, good
checkers.
idea. Thanks,
That's
Doug.
all.
A few comments here. The town hall, we had, what, about 20, 25 people? Bruce led the discussion about the budget, or the decrease in the tax rate by 1 mil. Bob was there to answer any questions. I think the residents really appreciate it. Vito, you were there. Harry was there. Again, we had a good audience. We also talked about our post-retirement health care obligations, retirement obligation. There's a new law called Public Act 202 of 2017. That was discussed in terms of the, not just our city, all home rule cities, all villages, townships that offer that as a post-retirement healthcare, a post-retirement employment cost. We also talked, there were some Deeplands residents or people interested in Deeplands. So, but the town hall, I think, was very good. Harry, you agreed that was a good town hall, wasn't it?
I think it's great when you do that. I only urge you to publicize it as much as you can, and if you can send out advance information, I think people will do it.
Yeah, maybe an email, a blast email or something to the residents. We have it on the marquee on our village sign, but you're right. It was good.
Well, I hope you can do it with this plan before you.
Okay. Well,
Because I think it'll be the community's advantage.
okay, thanks, Harry. The second thing is, well, I talked about the mayor-managers meeting. They talked about Rocket Fiber, and I forgot what the total cost is, but our assigned cost is about $265,000. So, and the payback is pretty long in terms of what it would do to the city. So we're still investigating it, but, right now, like I said, it is a little bit pricey. Last Tuesday, I went to the Grosse Pointe Historic Society, and they awarded 2 historic plaques to 2 Grosse Pointe Shores homes. One was 31 Renaud, which was built in 1930 by the builder Carl Meeks for Dr. George Renaud. Same spelling, Brian. And
Distant former relative.
is it? He was a very, very prominent throat specialist. So it was the first house built on Renaud Street. The surrounding property extended from Lakeshore to Mack. And the family grew up riding horses on the property and riding ice boats on the lake. The home itself is constructed of stone and designed in the French Normandy style with a turret and steeply pitched roof. The restoration work was all done by the current owner, that's Shane and Joy Kruger. The second Grosse Pointe Shores residence that was recognized with a historic plaque is 874 Lakeshore Road. This house was built in 1964 for W. Hawkins Ferry, a major force in modernistic art and architecture. Not only is his house a work of art, it was designed to showcase Mr. Ferry's world-class collection of modern furniture and artwork. An enormous roof overhangs and shields the 2-story glass wall on the lakeside to protect the artwork inside from direct sunlight. The current owners recently completed a 2-year restoration, and they are trying to have the house placed on the National Register of Historic Places. So congratulations to those 2 families in Grosse Pointe Shores for renovating already historic property, beautiful properties. I drove by them, and it's just wonderful. The swim team had a very successful registration, and what's exciting is the young families. We have more and more young families joining the swim team. That's our future. The future. So you see the 7-year-olds, the 6-year-olds, the 8-year-olds. They're having an ice cream social on June 3rd for the team members and families, and residents are welcome. Vito, I think you were there last year, so I hope you can make it this year. But it's a very nice event, and it really, to see the youth of the village, that to me is the most gratifying part, because that's what it's all about. That's our future. The Little League Parade was a couple weeks ago. We have our first woman World Series, or Grosse Pointe Wood Shores Little League president. They're going to have over 500 players this year, over 100 coaches. They're going to have hundreds and hundreds of volunteers to make that a successful program. But here's a recent statistic. 1/3 of the team players are girls. So they're really pushing. It's really becoming big in the community. And remember, Grosse Pointe Wood Shores is the only league in the state that have had more than one appearance in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And the 2013 and 2017 teams are the most recent additions. it's just been a really, really successful program. Not just for its win and loss totals, but I think for the widespread participation in the community. And, well, finally, Memorial Day is fast approaching. This long weekend serves as the official start of summer and our park season. But let's not forget the brave men and women who died serving our country. And that's what this holiday is all about. I need a roll call vote now to move into closed session review pending litigation and a legal opinion. Bruce, please.
Okay, after the roll call vote for closed session, Councilmember Barrett. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Bisbal.
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis.
Yes.
Councilmember Gazelle.
Yes.
Mayor Kujerski.
Yes.
Councilmember Cusick.
Here.
Councilmember Seeley.
Present.
Well, it's really yes.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we want,
That would be-
okay.
Unanimous.
Well, at this point, we're gonna have a closed session. We welcome anybody else to come back, and George, you might be back, won't you?
Roll call is then we'll adjourn the vote.
Whether she's recording it or what. Doesn't do anything.
She must have recorded.
You guys want a t-shirt?
No, I already have about 6 of them.
I don't wear t-shirts.
You don't wear no t-shirts?
I'm a Hawaiian t-shirt.
Yeah, I'll give you
No, I wear,
Okay.
313.